In this second video, we're going to go over how to add toolpaths to the geometry that you just drew from video number 1. We're going to begin by toolpathing the pockets, then we're going to toolpath the lip, and then we're going to toolpath the outer cut. So I'm going to select both of my pockets here. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down so I can select both of those because they're the same toolpath operation. We're going to go over here and we're going to select the hatch fill option. We're going to select sort tools by end mill, and you'll be looking for a 1/4 inch end mill. Our depth for this, if we look over at the drawing here, we are cutting in 5/8 or 0.625 of an inch for both pockets. So going back to end route here, I'm going to select my depth and type in 0.625. Then I'm going to hit these 3 little dots here to edit that. I'm going to open up my passes. I'm going to open up feeds and speeds. Now my passes, right now it wants to try to do this all in one pass, which would most likely throw your part off the router with the amount of force that it would take to cut 0.625 deep, the full width of the cut. Typically your max depth on the cut is the radius of the cutter. Our radius in this case is 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to increase our number of passes until I get that to that level, which would be 5 passes for this. If we look at our fills, we have a 50% overlap, which is good for this tool. The first pass is going to be the full width of the tool cutting. After that, it will just be half the overlap as we go through. So there's nothing you need to change there. It should take your feeds and speeds. We specified a material in video 1, and all of your toolpaths should be using that same feed and speed rate. So we have a feed rate of 100, we have a plunge rate of 50, and our spindle is set to 18,000. That should all be set up from that material we set in the first place. So we'll hit OK on that, OK again, and now you can see the toolpath. So you can see the green mark where it plunges in, and then it's going back and forth with that 50% overlap in order to cut that. If you look at the center of the toolpath, you can see how it does not touch the geometry. That's going to be defined by the radius of our cutter. So we have a 1/4 inch diameter cutter that goes through, so this first pass here is 1/8 inch away from that blue line. Our next step is to do the inside and outside cuts for the lip. So if we go over to our drawing here on our base part, we are cutting or removing the outside to keep the inner lip, and we're doing the opposite on the lid itself. So we'll go over here and we're going to select this piece of geometry we want to remove to the outside of that blue line. So we're going to go to a routing offset. We're going to use the same exact tool, so we're still sorting by end mills. You may need to change that, and you still need to find the 1/4 inch end mill and double click that to take that up into this menu. Our depth on this cut is 3/16 or 0.1875. That'll be for both of those lips, whether it's the inside or outside. So I'll type that in. 0.1875 is our depth, and then we'll go in to check our feeds and speeds. Again, your feed rate and speeds and spindle speed should all be kept from the material that we did. 50 for a feed rate, 100 for feed rate, 50 for plunge, and 18,000 for the revolutions. Now you notice it wants to do this in one pass as well, and that's going to be a little bit too much. That lip may break, so we're going to bump that up to 2 passes. That gets us underneath the radius of the cutter, so smaller than 1/8 of an inch will be fine on that. So we're going to hit OK. And we want to make sure this says external male, so it's going to cut around the outside, so we'll hit OK. You can see the inner blue line here, that's my contour. This is the center line of my toolpath, so I'm cutting to the outside. Over here on this part, we're going to be doing the opposite of that. We're going to be cutting on the inside. We're also going to use a routing offset. Notice it held the depth of 0.1875. This time we're going to be doing an internal cut, and we're going to go in to check this. It still held our 2 passes, so they're under 1/8 of an inch. That looks good. And our feeds and speeds also look good, still at 100, 50, and 18,000. So we can hit OK on that and OK again. Notice the toolpath goes to the inside of that piece of geometry. The last thing is to cut these out of the blank. So I'm going to select both of these at the same time. So I'll hold the Shift key down to grab both of those outside contours. And I'm also going to be using a routing offset for this as well. This will be an external routing offset, still with the 1/8 or 1/4 inch end mill. This time we're going all the way through the material, so 0.8125. So we want to slice this out of the material. We're going to go into edit. Notice it still held the 2 passes. That's going to take off 0.4. That is way too much to take off. So we're going to bump this up to take 6 passes. You could go 7, but 6 should be pretty good. That's just over the radius of our cutter by about 0.010 of an inch. We're going to scroll down and make sure that our feeds and speeds still look good, still 100, 50, and 18,000. I'm going to hit OK. Before I hit OK again on the routing offset, I'm going to include some bridges. So right now, if I were to remove that, so it cuts all the way through the part, our piece of the box is then going to be free, and it could rattle into the cutter head and get damaged at the very end of that toolpath. So we're going to add with bridges. And for these, this is a pretty small part, so I'm just going to add 4 bridges to each contour. So I'm going to go up to 4. The bridge height and length is good, what's set up here, so it's doing a 1/2 inch long bridge, and the bridge is 0.1 inches tall. You'll see what that looks like in our simulation in just a moment here. So I'm going to hit OK. The bridges are shown by these green brackets. One of the things that I like to do is move them off the curves. It's just easier to sand if they're on the flat areas. So I'll go up to machining here, toolpath, and we'll go to edit bridges. And your left mouse button, notice this one is right in the center of that curve. I'm going to hold my left mouse button and I'm just going to slide that down so it's on the straight portion of that cut. I'll do the same thing over here. Notice they're kind of offset to the side. That looks good. I'm going to do the same thing this one. I'll bring this down and I'll bring this one up a little bit. You're just grabbing that in the center, hold left mouse button as you do that. When you're happy with your bridge placement, you're going to right click and you're going to exit the tool. Now, it's important that we make sure the tool order is correct. We don't want it to cut all the way out and just have those small bridges holding the material as we go through here and we make this cut in the center. So we need to go to machining and select order. When we get the order here, right now it only selected 1 and 2 because that's what I had selected on screen. So I'm going to do, before I go into tool order, I'm just going to select all the tool paths on the screen and then go into the order tool. And notice now we should have 6 tool paths that come up. We have 2 pockets, we have 2 lip cuts, and then we have 2 outer cuts. So we want to renumber these things. I want this outer cut here where it says 1, I want that to happen last. So I'm going to take that up to cut number 6. I'm going to select this one over here. I'm going to bump that up to cut number 5. Then we'll take a look at our pockets. I'd like the 2 pockets to happen first and second. So this pocket on the right is already happening second. I'm going to click on the number 4 here, and I'm going to take that down to be my first. So go 1, 2, then it's going to do this lip here with number 3, comes over here for number 4, and then the last one, 5 and 6, cutting out those outside profiles. So we're going to hit OK on that, and then we're going to take a look at what this looks like as it machines. So you're going to go Simulate 3D. Now, this animate will take a little bit of time. I'm going to fast forward in the video here, but we're going to animate that so you can watch the tool order. You're going to hit OK. You're going to turn the light bulb on, and then you're going to hit play. You're paying attention to the tool order here so you can see how it's doing the pocket first. Now, that pocket has 5 layers to it, so each one of those is going to get cut, and then it should move on to toolpath number 2. Now that our simulation is complete, it's important to look at the underside of your tool pathing. So I'm using the Shift key and my right mouse button to just make sure those bridges look good. So these are the small little channels that are going to attach the outside part to your inside pieces so that they don't break free when that router is finished cutting. So if this looks good, tool order looked nice on that. It cut the outside parts last, inside parts first. You're going to finish your simulation. You can double click on perspective, and if you want, you can double click on the top view to take you back. Now we're going to do the output. So you're going to go to machining and output. You're going to have to check your driver the first time you send something to the CNC. So you're going to go to driver. If it says IJ ARCs, you're good. If not, you're going to go to active drivers, and you're going to have to find Techno HD and then find IJ ARCs. You'd have to select IJ ARCs here, hit OK again, and then you're ready to go to file. Now I would save this first to your OneDrive, and then secondly it needs to go onto a flash drive to make it over to the CNC. So I'm saving this in my two-part box. It's going to be a .nc file, so I'm going to call this, we'll call this two-part box. And I like to put the part size here, so my part size is 14 by 4 by 8125. I don't add a period here before the .8125 because it will not add the .nc, which is important. That's your file extension. So then I'll hit save on that, and then that's ready to go over to the machine. You can have your teacher help you set up your part.